let me go back to an issue which I raised a couple of weeks ago when I spoke to Professor Stephen Duckett, who has forgotten more about public health than any other Australian would know. In Australia, we face not only the crisis of who to believe in all this coronavirus mess, the quarantine system's in disarray, the vaccination, well, 5 million administered, but we don't know how many Australians are fully vaccinated, and we're not told. There are only 375,000 Australians in aged and disability facilities. How many are vaccinated? It's only less than a week ago that the Prime Minister told the member for Scullin, Andrew Giles, at question time that only 25% of people in residential care had been vaccinated. The member for Barramanong, the former Labor leader Bill Shorten, reminded the government that health officials had told Senate estimates only a week ago that only 355 out of 22,000 living in disability accommodation, that's fewer than 2%, had received both doses. The point is this, which I've made before. There's a whole army of corporates who've been contracted to manage the distribution of the vaccine and the logistics, and we don't know what they've been paid. Remember, the government is paying pharmaceutical companies, private companies, millions. We don't know how much. We don't know to whom. It's a secret. As I've said previously, there is a website, AusTender, where you're supposed to be able to find out about government-signed contracts. It's meaningless. Surely if the vaccine campaign is failing, these outfits have failed. Ticky Fullerton is the editor-at-large at the Australian Business Review. She wrote a story at the weekend which blew my mind. AstraZeneca have supplied 450 million vaccine doses to 165 countries. What the hell would that be worth? So they're now going to plant 50 million trees globally, 25 million in Australia. And this is all about climate change. And this is where we're heading. I suppose it's easy to talk about climate change and plant 50 million trees if the poor, beleaguered taxpayer is paying, many of whom in Victoria can't even go to work. They're stumping up the money. Remember, of the $1 trillion of debt we're heading towards, AstraZeneca and Pfizer have their hands deep in that total. Ticky joins us this evening. Ticky, thank you for joining us. I find all this stuff alarming. You're in this game of finance. How much are these people being paid? I mean, it's a cushy world, isn't it? The government pushes vaccination. It's free. Look, so these pharmaceutical companies have dollars in their eyes and say, one dose is not enough, you'll need two, then you might need a booster. How much are we paying?
Alan, look, Big Pharma has had a very bad rap, and in some ways for good reasons, with things like, remember, OxyContin in the US, and, you know, their reputation was very bad. I do have to say that AstraZeneca is the one company which is doing this, believe it or not, every single one, as far as I know, of those 450 million vaccines are being delivered around to 165 countries without AstraZeneca making any profit at all. Now, it is the only one of those big pharma companies, you know, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, they are all making billions out of this, or they will make billions in revenue out of this. And ironically, one of the things that Pascal Soriot, who is the head of AstraZeneca, has had to weather is why he's been doing this. And so there are reports in Britain now that, you know, that people inside AstraZeneca, quite senior people, are saying, oh, no, we wouldn't do this again. We've been to hell and back with all this misleading information about how effective the vaccine is, and then obviously...
But Ticky, if I could just... Sorry to interrupt you. Can I just come back to my point, though? I tried to find out what this is costing us as the taxpayer. Shouldn't we know how much we're paying pharmaceutical companies? Shouldn't we know how much DHL's supply chain and Linfox have been contracted to manage the distribution and the logistics? Why shouldn't we know what they're being paid? Accenture was signed up to manage the data tracking of doses. Why shouldn't we know what they're being paid? Price Waterhouse contracted to help the Department of Health. I mean,
that's a very good point, Alan. I think disclosure around that. I mean, I think for you to lobby like that, I think is a very good thing, because it would be very interesting to know. I mean, CSL, for example, have done this on a commercial basis, as I understand it. But AstraZeneca, I have to say, is and they have provided almost all the COVAX vaccine in the developing world. So I would give them a very big star.
I take your point, but I want to go beyond AstraZeneca. I mean, McKinsey & Co. have been contracted for 2 months for information technology consultation services as a contract with Ernst & Young.
Alan, it never stops. I mean, just imagine the money that is being made in the private sector about working from home.
Yeah.
Just imagine the money that has gone through, the amount of equipment supplies and people coming into our offices and saying, you've got to put things here, here and here. And then in 6 months' time, they'll be telling us to put it all back again. Everybody's making a huge amount of money.
So, well, Ticky, what about this Oz tender? Now, they're the information base where you're supposed to go and find out about government-signed contracts. It's meaningless. And McKinsey & Co. got a 3-month gig. I tried to find, I think, 2.4 million, 3 months, signed by the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet for, quote, capability services. And under Senate questioning, the Department of PM&C said McKinsey was advising the government about maximising economic and social opportunities as the COVID-19 vaccines progress. Now, why the secrecy? I mean, is the government embarrassed about how much it's shelled out for so little effect? What do you think?
Well, management consultancy, as I'm sure you know, Alan, is some would call it a dark art, but it is a very interesting sector, and sometimes their work can be highly influential and highly productive. Other times, I've known management consultants to go through a place and actually take it backwards. So there is a lot of privacy around, exactly what management consultants.
But government, if government signed these tenders, we should know.
Yes.
We should know, shouldn't we?
Yes, I think you're onto something there.
And I mean, are these companies, do you think now, frightened of reputational damage? I mean, the quarantine thing is a mess. The vaccination thing's a mess. I mean, the federal government in 2013 spent, I was checking this out today, $386 million on consultants. We thought that was a lot. By 2019, it was $700 million. And we don't know what any of these contracts are worth.
And as you say, at the end of the day, where is the outcome at the moment? I expect when the Prime Minister gets to G7 in Cornwall with Boris Johnson will be singing the praises of the vaccine rollout in Britain. And, they've done it by going through pharmacies. You can access pharmacies. Well, our pharmacies are all here ready and waiting, as I understand it, to help with vaccine rollout. That hasn't been moved on. There are some things that I don't really understand why this chain hasn't happened as fast as it could have done. But maybe we'll hear a little bit more from Boris Johnson, as I say.
Ticky, you are wonderful. All I'm saying to my viewers is this woman is right up to speed on everything she does. Now, if she doesn't know and I don't know, there is something wrong with the system, because this is taxpayers' money. Ticky, thank you for your time.
Good on you.
Thank you for what you do. Ticky Fulton is dangerous stuff, I have to say. Ticky Fulton is the editor-at-large at the Australian Business Review. What are your thoughts? Shouldn't we know? Alan at skynews.com.au or text me 0414 000 848.